Happy Saturday, beautiful people. This is Friday Night Lights on Air. We're the students of the game, and class begins now. Welcome to our humble abode, aka my dad's converted weather studio.
Shout out producer Chuck.
Shout out producer Chuck. I'm your host, Gentry Neese, joined here by my brother in arms, Jett Wilson, and I'm putting the rumor to bed right now, folks. He was born with it. It's not Maybelline. Jett, how you feeling over there?
I'm feeling good, man. It was fun to watch the boys out there tonight. They fought hard. I'm never going to be sad with the outcome when they're giving all they can on the field.
Hey, that's all we can ask, okay? Thank you for you guys watching out there on a beautiful Saturday morning. Thank you for making us here at Friday Night Lights on Air and Students of the Game your home for all things Williamson County High School football. If you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like and subscribe. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're just listening in, if you don't want to watch us or see this fancy green screen behind us, you don't have to. We're not going to force you, okay? We are on Instagram for a one-stop shop hub. We have a link tree and everything. How about that link tree? We're pretty fancy. We're stepping up.
Look
in the world. Planting the seed on the link tree is what we were doing. The Instagram is Students of the Game TN, all one word. And if you have any questions, here you go. This is a new segment.
This is a good idea.
If you have any questions, you can either DM us or comment on their Instagram or send us an email at studentsofthegametn@gmail.com, and we'll try to respond, interact with the crowd out there. How do you feel about us interacting with the crowd?
I think that's a great call. And if you don't want to be called out, we're not going to be like John Young said, So if you don't want to be called out, that's okay. But if you got a question, we'd love to answer.
Well, we know John Young, and he would only have good questions and great takes anyway. So he's the bullet in the gun of this Franklin team. Everybody knows that. Okay.
Let's get into
it right here. Franklin tonight hosted Page. We were there in person. And Jett, I want to start with specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Let's shout out some players because I think the main theme for the entire night was how incredible this defense played. And so, Jett, who were a few players that you saw that absolutely stood out tonight?
100%. The defense was balling tonight. The third week in a row that the defense has stepped up. It's not a surprise now. Now we're starting to expect the defense to produce. It's hard to name a couple guys because top to bottom, the defense
everybody played well. If we could shout out everybody.
Run.
We're shouting out everybody.
100%.
Yes, absolutely.
Some guys that stood out to me tonight. Number one, Walker Wells.
Come on now.
Could have cribbed one. Could have grabbed the tape and taken it to the house. But still a pass breakup. Two pass breakups tonight.
Yeah.
A sack. A TFL. These stats are also coming from my eyes, folks. So could be off on a couple, but just what I saw. 2 PBUs, 1 TFL, 1 sack. Great stat.
And he, if you get a TFL, you know the rules around here. You're getting nicknames. So what was your nickname that you gave him in the preview show?
He's Walker, Texas Ranger.
Walker, Texas Ranger. That has received much better feedback than Aiden give me some Elmore that I said. That has crashed and burned. Okay, so
I think it's getting more hate than it deserves.
I appreciate your support. Hey, we're gonna go back to the drawing board with that nickname. Don't worry, we're here to correct ourselves. We're gonna hold ourselves accountable. But yes, continue.
Continuing with the defense, Teagan, the other linebacker.
Teagan Lee.
Number 6, flying around the field tonight. Was getting QB pressures. Big hits. This guy lays the wood.
He does. He brings the lumber. Okay.
In the backfield all night. Shout out Teagan. He was balling.
And actually, so I heard this in the stands. I heard someone give him a nickname in the stands. Are you ready? I heard that. How about Teagan the Eraser Lee?
Oh,
okay.
Wow,
we didn't come up with that. So if you hate it, don't send that to us. How about that Teagan? Because he just would come in and he was on cleanup.
He was a janitor.
Yes,
he does not run to them.
Well
he runs
said.
through them.
I love it. Who else you got over
We got number 11, Jalen Little.
He was packing a punch.
He looked confident tonight. He was flying around, doing a lot like his boy Teagan was doing, running through the guy with the ball.
Absolutely, 100%. There was a play early on the game when they tried to run a bubble screen, right? A classic bubble screen. But Jalen, he sheds the block and attacks. I mean, goes full throttle, doesn't break down, doesn't waste time. He goes and he attacks and he blows up the entire screen. As soon as the guy catches the ball, he lays the wood on him and he knocks him down.
Big play on punt too.
Big play on punt. Special team, he was laying the wood on special teams. As we all know, there are 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. You cannot forget about that third phase. He was laying the wood. I loved it.
Just a couple more names. Aiden Elmore balling every night.
Aiden Elmore. Yeah, that's a great name. Yeah, that was pizzazz on that one, but it's fine.
Another new name, A new name.
Yeah.
Jacob Dykstra.
Jacob Dykstra. That's going to be a complicated one to find a nickname for.
It is.
But I feel like that name in itself gives a good, certain gravitas towards it. Some strength.
Yeah. He was in the backfield a lot tonight. Jacob Dykstra.
That's right. Exactly.
He was balling. Shout out Jacob. Mm-hmm. Also, David Domingo, sophomore.
David Domingo.
Domingo,
super sophomore. Is playing on Friday nights, we call him.
Steps in. Andy's out.
Yeah, and Andy Dixon's
as
out.
A sophomore, never played before, and held his own. Shout out to him. It's not an easy thing to do. Okay.
In the trenches. Oh, you got one
no. Keep going.
I'm going to say in the trenches. Durham Queen.
Oh, yeah.
Makes plays happen up there because they did a great job of stopping the run. It all starts on front. And might I add, here's a nickname. Former Pancake Pantry Pancake of the Week winner. Did I say that? I get that out right? Durham Queen. I mean, they don't just give out those. You know what I mean? I mean, there's a line to wait just to get in there. So there's probably a line to wait. You know what I mean? You've seen that line wrapped around the building. So there's a line probably for the awards too. Shout out Durham Queen there. Okay.
We're ready to go to the offensive side.
We're ready to go to the offensive side of the ball.
Thompson King.
The
toughness that guy showed tonight to step up with former Big Bad Breakfast Player of the Week, Brewer Wilson, out tonight.
Man, a lot of restaurants and restaurant nicknames. It's just making me hungry just thinking about it.
Tommy, the way he stepped up, never starting a game of quarterback in his life, stepping up against Page, a great defense with 4-star linebackers all around the board. He stepped up. He played tough. He kept us in the game. And he operated the offense very well, aside from the point of it being his first game ever playing quarterback.
And that's something that we want to key in hard. And that's going to probably be our main theme that we're going to talk about offensively, is when this isn't a situation when the quarterback goes down and you have a backup quarterback. There is no backup quarterback. Like your point, this is Thompson's first game playing quarterback ever, okay? And so the way we did that kind of the entire game was in the Wildcat. And since we're going to be in the entire game in the Wildcat, I know we've mentioned that on the pod before, but I'm going to do a little history in a new segment that I call, you ready for this? Gridiron of Dreams, where we do the history of a specific play, okay, or formation. In this case, we're going to do a little history of the Wildcat formation.
I love it.
Okay, so the Wildcat formation derived out of the single wing formation back in the 20s, but wasn't really truly but 1920. And I know we're bringing it back a little bit. You know what I mean? The Roaring 20s. We've got Prohibition,
we've got Great Gatsby.
We've got the Great Gatsby, and we've got the single wing formation. Okay, those are the three things I know everybody thinks about in the 20s. So, but it wasn't really popularized until the Wildcat we know today, until a high school team did it in the 90s, where they would actually have the quarterback line up under center, but he would motion out to be a wide receiver, and they would directly snap it to the running back, and then he would run. And so that's kind of where it started, right? That's the high school team, their mascot was the Wildcat, the people who did this. So that's where the name came from. But it really wasn't made famous until September 21st, 2008, when the New England Patriots, on a record-breaking 21-game regular season win streak, travels down to Hard Rock Cafe. I don't know if it was Hard Rock back then, but that's the Miami Dolphins stadium. They traveled down to South Beach, week 3 of the season in 2008, okay? And they were on a 21-game win streak, and at the time, the Miami Dolphins were not a very good team. So head coach Tony Sparano, okay, I know that's he's a head football coach of the Dolphins, Tony Sparano. I know that sounds like a character that Joe Pesci should be playing in the Scorsese film, okay, but it was actually the head coach of the Dolphins. He decides, hey, if the 21 in a row win Patriots and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the boys are coming to town, we need something. And so what he did was he took his running back, Ronnie Brown, and he pretty much ran the Wildcat for most of the game. Yep. And what ended up happening, Jett? They ended up winning 30. They ended up upsetting the 21 streak Patriots 38-13. Okay, Ronnie Brown himself, running the Wildcat, had 4 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown. Okay, the only other person to ever do that in league history. Are you ready for this? Because we're going to travel back to the 20s. We're going to travel back to the 20s. Our boy, Paddy Driscoll, right? I feel like his name should be Paddy O'Driscoll. That sounds like a beautiful Irish name. Paddy Driscoll did it with the Chicago Cardinals back in October 7th of 1923. Okay, so almost 100 years are going by, and Ronnie Brown scores 4 touchdowns on the ground and throws another 19-yard pass on a trick play to Anthony Fasano, another Paisan name getting dropped in this story. So he has 4 rushing touchdowns, 5 and then 5 total touchdowns, 1 passing. And that game had such an impact that his jersey that he wore that game was actually retired currently in the Hall of Fame. And so that is a history of the Wildcat formation. The play that is run of a good play that is run a lot in the Wildcat formation. To really talk about that, we need, you know what segment we need to go to now? Getting out of the gridiron of dreams.
I'm getting excited. Dude.
What is it, Jett? You want to tell me?
I think it might be the chalkboard.
The chalkboard. We're going headed to the chalkboard. All right, bring it up.
How about my partner here, guys?
How about it? Come on now. Here, it was beautiful. Hope you guys
Driscoll in the 20s led us to Thompson King.
Gather round, children, and ye shall hear the story of the Wildcat. Okay. So here's a good play that you see a lot out of the Wildcat. This is not the only play, but we saw some here tonight. So you have a running back lined up at quarterback, and everybody else is kind of empty. Okay, so you've got a tight end here, 2 receivers, and you got your regular offensive line, and then a receiver off the ball here.
So give me some names. Who are we looking at in Franklin?
So we're looking at Franklin office. We're most likely seeing Lucas Young in motion. We're most likely seeing Luke Thompson or Tommy King at quarterback. We are seeing Aiden Elmore in the H-back position. We are seeing Jack Flynn in the slot position, and we're seeing the Twin Tower, Wills Jackson out here. Yep. And so Lucas Young is always a playmaker, and so is whoever's at quarterback, Lucas Thompson or Thompson King. And so what we're going to do is we're going to send him in jet motion. Okay, we're going to send Lucas Young in jet motion, and it's either going to be a called play by the coach, or we're going to read one of these defensive players on, hey, we're actually either going to spread him out wide and give it to Lucas Young on the jet sweep, and he's going to, as you can see from this arrow, he's going to try to get the edge and try to find either an alley right here, or if ideally the sideline, and take it down the sideline and go score. Or we're going to fake it to him to get the defense flowing, and then this Wildcat quarterback's going to take it straight up the middle on a dive, on more of a dive run play. And so what that does is you're always having this motion, and this defense has to cover the entire field because, first of all, you have an extra blocker because there's no technical quarterback you have to worry about. And so that gives you numbers in the run game either way. But they also have to cover this whole field with this jet motion and then having the opportunity to either take it up the edge or run it straight up the middle. So there we go. That's a little history of the Wildcat, both 2 back-to-back segments, Gridiron Dreams, and then the chalkboard. That's a good play. So we're going to, just to kind of set the scene, because this is the Wildcat is what we saw all night from Franklin's offense. Okay,
I think Franklin did a great job tonight of switching up the things that they were doing out of the Wildcats.
Yes, that wasn't the only play that they ran.
Right. And in the past couple of weeks when they ran Wildcats, been very predictable. I thought this week they did a good job of switching some different things in, some quick passes, got guys open in space, which we talked about on Wednesday.
Yeah, ball in hands plus grass.
Get Lucas Young the ball quick. Tommy had a great throw down the sideline, a deep ball to Wills. Wills made a great adjustment.
He did. Give your players a chance, right? So let's dive into the game.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Page ends up scoring first. They get the ball first. Quick. They get the ball first. We stop them for a 3 and out. Then Franklin gets the ball. We're kind of backed up in our territory, and that was one of your keys to victory was field position. And then we get the ball. And the entire night, it was kind of a tale of 2 Thompsons at quarterback, right? It was either going to be Thompson King or Luke Thompson, okay? Because they both provide their own qualities, and they're different types of athletes and provide and they provide different things. Luke Thompson's more of a speed guy. Tommy's more of a power guy, right? But to your point, it's going to be a struggle when you've never played quarterback from an operational standpoint. Right. So we get a penalty, we get a false start, and we go 3 and out. Page gets the ball back, drives down and scores, and we're down 7-0. And what's your thoughts at this point when we're down 7-0 in the first half? Because they scored early, and we started to get a little nervous.
Yeah, you're getting a little nervous there, especially not expecting the offense to produce. And the offense, I'll say it again, like they did much better tonight than I was expecting. But yeah, you're kind of thinking, okay, like Page made that look pretty easy. This could be a long night.
Exactly.
But props, the field position game tonight for Franklin, they controlled field position much, much better than they did in the first 2 weeks.
Absolutely, 100%. And Jett, we actually saw a new punter tonight, okay? Mr. Wayne Wells himself.
Shout out
Wayne Wells. So since Tommy King was playing quarterback, they relieved him of his punting responsibilities, and Wayne Wells comes out here and absolutely boots one to the sky.
Moonshot.
A moonshot. I actually think I heard a couple wolves howl at it. It was so high. Speaking of pack of wolves, it was probably Sean Gawk and his brothers howling at it. It's just that they're just a pack of wolves themselves. So, and it actually forces it's so much so that it disorients the punt returner.
Yeah, he's having to run back over his shoulder trying to catch the ball.
And almost like kind of like a receiver almost, and he ends up muffing it. And then who ends up recovering this muff?
I think it was Domingo.
The sophomore Domingo. We mentioned him earlier.
It might have been Junior Domingo, brothers.
Okay, the Domingo brothers.
Domingo started at Titan tonight.
Star, right. Star, which kind of an outside linebacker position.
Yes, one of the Domingos got the ball.
One of the Domingos got the ball, and this was kind of our chance, right?
It's kind of the first time we've seen special teams step up.
I would say all season.
The big tackle by Jay Little, the big punt by Wayne that ended up getting muffed and recovered.
You know you're living right when you've got punters making big play, getting the teams. I don't know if you remember this, Jett. But Jett, it was so much so that normally in special teams, kicks are when people kind of look away. Unfortunately, I don't like it, but it kind of what happens is when they go, if they're watching TV, they go get a cold one from the fridge, lemonade, of course, you know what I mean, and so or water, whatever. They get a cold one from the fridge. They leave their TV set. You were actually looking off in the distance, and I see this punt. And I actually this is what I get so excited. I'm like grabbing you like I do when I'm talking about the Fangio 6 in the podcast.
The ball was in the air for so long. I had
time to look around and watch the whole thing. So shout out that. You know you're living right when you're getting the punting plays, getting us excited up there.
Excited
and you
to
get
see
a couple when you're getting arm slaps from Gentry up there. Yes, excited to see that.
Excited to see it progress.
And we get hope, we get life right here, and we end up moving the ball and keeping forward, but end up on a 4th and 1. And Jett, what happens on this 4th and 1? Talk me through it.
So we sell out on the run. Everyone in the stadium knows that Thompson King's going to get the ball, roll out right, QB power. You got guards pulling, lead blocking in front of Tommy. He's trying to follow his blockers, but Page sells out for it. It's kind of one of those plays where it's you and your guys versus me and my guys. You know what's coming.
You and yours versus me and mine.
That is what they say. Shout out Tony Joe.
Allegedly.
Yeah, Page just got the best of us on that play. They got stud linebackers, stud D-line, huge guys, all in the front 7, and they were just able to outman us. But Coach Cathy let them hear it after that play.
Hey, so like to Jett's point, we're going to talk about that. We can hear it from the stands. This is how we notice. Because on a 4th and 1, I like the fact that we called a run play. Because that says a lot about your team. Even though you want your team to be able to walk up there and say, we know we're going to run it. You know we're going to run it. Stop us. I dare you. And it's mano in the trenches. Yep. And this time it did not go our way. And we heard the offensive line getting it, hearing about that play from Tucker Cathy from the stand on the sideline. And Jett, I don't know if you heard it, but I heard it from the stands.
Oh, 100%. I think everybody kind of heard it. And I heard a couple of dads were like, "Get him, coach." They were like, "You can't let up a 4th. Like you got to get that 4th and 1. It's unexcusable to have a negative play on a 4th and 1. You got to get that." So.
Yes, and it happens. We've been on the receiving end of probably a couple of those in our playing days, and it happens. But hopefully, it lights the fire. You do that, light the fire. We were behind Coach. Us and the dads in the stands were behind Coach Cathy for doing that.
That was kind of. There was a couple of missed opportunities.
That was probably the first big one.
That was the first big one where we're going into the first half. We know we get the ball second. We can score here, tie the game, going 7-7.5. Get the ball back in the second half.
Come on now, now we're moving. Here we go. How you doing? Keep it moving, right?
Big miss, and a ball game's always more than one play. But a big miss early in the game. Into the first half.
Kind of takes us into halftime. Yep. And at halftime, Page is up 7-0. But we don't feel demoralized, do we, Jett? What are your thoughts at halftime when Franklin's down 7-0?
I felt the way that our defense played and the way that our offense had run the ball. We made plays on special teams. We were controlling the field position. It almost felt like we had won. It was like that touchdown that Page scored early in the first quarter was so distant in our memories.
Yes,
we're seeing the big plays.
And we're seeing the defense. Yeah, we're seeing. I mean, it fires me up watching Donnie Coach out there, Dr. Defense. He's earning his name. He's performing surgeries, like I said, out there on the defensive side of the ball. And now going into the second half, we get the ball and we try to make a play and we throw a deep shot over the middle, kind of a seam to Sean Gaka. and it floats up there, and it gets intercepted by, shout out to you, this Memphis commit safety. Tell me what your thoughts about the interception. I don't hate the call personally.
No, I'm the same as Gentry. I think that Coach Atkins was trying to switch things up, be unpredictable, had Luke Thompson in the game, hadn't seen Luke throw it a lot. He was just trying to make a play. And that's what you got to do to beat a team like Page with your starting quarterback out. You have to make some plays. And this is a play where it's a big win or a big loss. It was a risky play, but I don't think it was a bad call at all.
Honestly, it ends up being not that bad because Dr. Defense gets in the defensive boys. Shout out these players for after the interception getting another stop.
Another fourth down stop.
Yes, another fourth down stop, and then we get the ball back and we're back in. All of a sudden, it kind of felt like, okay, maybe we do have a shot at this. We kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel here.
I think this is the drive that we drove down and got in the red zone again.
Right? I think so too. I think so too. So we hit a couple of. I mean, watching Lucas when Lucas Young when the ball gets in his hands, we're just like, get the ball in his hands. We end up throwing a flat route to him on a 3rd and 10. All hope is lost. He spins out of 2 guys, dives at the pylon, makes a first down. It was very impressive, very athletic play by Lucas Young, and we were like, we want to see more of that. We end up starting to drive down there. We get a penalty that backs us up to a 3rd and 16. And again, now we tried it with Luke Thompson. So coach says, let's try with Tommy King. We try to throw a wheel route up the sideline to Sean, and it gets picked by.
Yep.
And so another demoralizing play here, close to the red zone. This was our shot. So much so that the people in the stands were saying, if we don't get this and it ends up being 4th and 16, we need to go for it anyway on 4th and 16.
Yep.
That's how desperate we were. So talk to me about the thoughts on the interception.
That's where Franklin struggled tonight, is when they got behind the chains. They did a good job when it was 1st and 10.
Yes, and kind of just 2 or 3, 4 yards, 3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Turn it into a 2nd and medium, 3rd and short, and be able to get the first down. They were able to move the ball that way, move the chains, get first downs. But when they got a penalty like they did in the red zone, it backs them up. Then they're forced into a passing situation. And when Page knows that you're going to pass, it's really hard with the Wildcat, with Thompson King back there in a pass-heavy situation.
And we're not blaming these. I mean, honestly, this is exactly
it's just how the game
unfolded. I mean, honestly, they did a great job. We're very proud of these players, especially. I know we've mentioned. Obviously, we're super proud of the defense side of the ball, even for the offensive side of the ball, to be able to just operate, line up correctly on a quick week of practice when you find out your quarterback's not playing. Yeah. Okay, Page does take advantage of this. And so they do drive down. They end up, we think we have hope. We think kind of it's like, here we go. They end up on a 4th and 10, and they end up going for it. And they end up converting on the 4th and 10 on a comeback route. What looks to me would be switch verts. I'm not sure it was switch verts because, again, we were there. We haven't rewatched the tape or anything, or the TV copy or the stream. But what it looked like to me, when I say switch verts, is you have verticals. Let's say there's 2 receivers on one side. You have verts or verticals, and the outside guy's responsibility is you're taking it up the sideline. The inside guy's responsibility is you're taking it vertical down the seam. Okay, on switch verts, they simply switch responsibilities. So it almost looks like a post wheel, but in reality, they're just trying to create a natural rub route. And so you'll see them start to switch, and they're going to try and really tightly rub to get the DBs to little confusion, and the inside guy now takes the outside guy's responsibility, and his job is to go up the sideline, and the inside guy's responsibility or the outside guy now takes the inside guy's responsibility, and he takes it up the seam, and they're trying to create a natural rub with that switch.
They make an X.
They make an X, right? Exactly. And so the outside guy, whoever has the sideline, he has the option to either run deep or drop it off on a comeback route. When we were coached as receivers, we were taught if you're even with the defensive back, if the receiver is even with him, leave him, keep running. If he stopped you, drop it. Even leaving, stop and drop him, right? And so he decided to drop it off on a comeback route. They throw it to him. And in reality, it looks like from us that's on the corner from a fan's perspective. But in reality, Jett, does he anticipate a linebacker being underneath that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Franklin doesn't run a lot of man coverage. So the cornerbacks are usually playing a deep third, which means that they're going to have a linebacker, usually the outside linebacker, which is going to be Domingo or Tommy or Santino on the weak side. And they're going to drop under the comeback route, so the cornerbacks can play deep. It's kind of that bend don't break shell. We're not going to let anyone.
The Fangio, shout out Fangio 6.
Fangio 6.
Yep.
But yeah, the corners always get the hate. It's not always the corner's
Spoken from
fault.
a corner and for a true corner himself.
It's a hard spot to be.
Yes, it is. Okay.
But that was a drive that was really demoralizing for Franklin.
Because they end up.
We get the fourth down stop. Or we get stopped on fourth down. Page gets the ball back with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. Ends up
Converting on
third down,
fourth down,
multiple
fourth
third downs, multiple fourth downs.
Yep.
End up punching it in with 8 minutes left.
A quarterback, it is a good quarterback run. I mean, they
great athlete.
Were a great athlete. They lined up tight bunch right. Running back was on the right. He then sees everybody. Our defense is shifted to the right. Quarterback flips the running back to the left. Snaps the ball right after that. Has a lead blocker, and they have the numbers on the outside. They go 14-0. We kind of have one last final shot at it, and Tommy makes a play downfield.
Huge
throws play to Wills, right?
Huge play. Great throw, great catch.
A great catch, but then it kind of stalls out again. That was kind of our final shot. We then give the ball back to Page. Yeah. They take their time and run out the clock. And honestly, Jett, even though the final score was a loss, 14-0, super proud of all these boys, specifically these guys who were thrown in at quarterback, the tale of two Thompsons, Luke Thompson and Thompson King, and everybody else for playing hard on the offense, because we know that can be struggle. It's a new offense. You're not going to get the deep shots like you normally will, but they played. But super proud of this defensive players. Super proud. They fought for a fact where your offense is going to be slower than normal and not operate like they would with their starting quarterback. For them to go out and stop and fight every defensive snap. I love seeing all the TFLs. I loved it. Any final thoughts on this game?
You said it best. I'd say Franklin, even offensively, they moved the ball very well tonight until they got behind the chains. When it was a must-pass situation, that's when we weren't able to convert those third and longs, and we had to try to make plays, and interceptions were thrown. And that's part of it. Hopefully we get Big Bad Breakfast Player of the Week Brew back next week. But shout out the offense. Shout out the boys.
Shout out all the boys.
They were playing with passion.
Shout out the boys. They were playing with passion.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Okay. Speaking of passion, sorry, I know I've got my notes here on a legal pad. I know Law and Order and Suits are called, and they want their legal pads back. But okay, so we're gonna jumping in now to get the pulse of the nation, going into one of our favorite segments. Jett, say it with me on 3. 1, 2, 3. The lightning round. Okay, yes, that's our best impression of thunder sounds. Okay.
They knew that. They could tell.
Okay, if you didn't know what that was.
Very realistic.
Yeah, it wasn't static electricity. Yeah. Okay, so we're starting with BGA, who takes on a barn burner. They end up edging out Nashville Christian on a last-second interception in the end zone. BGA 35, Nashville Christian 28. Brentwood handles Hendersonville 56-14. Centennial 20, Indy 13. Indy scores their first points of the game. Anything about Indy? A little preview for next week?
Yeah, a little preview for the walkthrough we got coming up this week. Indy Franklin next week. Huge district
at
game.
Indy. Yep, huge. First one with playoff implications.
At Independence, I know Franklin's going to bring it. We're going to be loud at the away games. Independence they've dropped the last two. They dropped one to Centennial last week. They dropped one again this week.
Centennial this week. They lose to Page, I believe. Page it was. Right. And then they take Oakland off. They get beat by Oakland.
Centennial's 0-3.
Or Indy's 0-3. It's all right. We got you drinking it. What's in this cup here? Yeah, take it easy.
Independence is 0-3. We're gonna go see them next week. Huge district game. They're a big running team. I'm excited to see how Dr. Defense and our run.
Nothing Dr. Defense can't handle, right?
I'm excited to see how we stack up.
And so we're gonna cover that entire game in an in-depth preview in our middle of the week episode called The Walkthrough. We'll get to that. Okay. Fairview takes on Stewart's Creek, beats them 35-0. CPA beats JP2 42-9. Green Hill beats Summit 20-0. Little fun fact here. I made a joke about Green Hill High School being in Green Hills. My sharp as attack mother-in-law texted me after, great friend of the program, glad she's watching, and says, hey, it's actually closer to Mount Juliet than Green Hills. So we're like, hey, allegedly. We didn't know. Allegedly.
We talked for about 5 minutes in the walkthrough about how Green Hills had a new high school, and they were playing Summit this week. And,
It's all right. Okay.
It happens, guys.
So Lipscomb 35, Briarcrest 31, Nolensville 38, beating McGavick to 0, Ravenwood 14, Blackman 7, Overton 7, East Nashville 49. That concludes the lightning round. Now moving into our final segment, Jett. one of their newer ones called The Next Town Over, where last week we always spotlight a team that is outside of Williamson County. Last week we did Tullahoma in the 99th Annual Coffee Pot. Shout out Tullahoma, actually. They got their first win tonight. Shout out to the Olive Brothers. Shout out to T-Town. Shout out to Race Marin and the boys for leading them.
Shout out Kenai Johnson.
Shout out Kenai Johnson. Shout out Kenai Johnson for leading the boys. Okay, this time we're going to travel out east, up and down Mont Eagle Mountain into Knoxville, Maryville, Tennessee, where Maryville took on Bradley Central. The reason I want to spotlight this game is, Jett, for as long as we've been playing, Maryville has been a powerhouse. Champions of 6A. They now have a starting quarterback who is a sophomore starting quarterback. Actually started as a freshman last year, Jett. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is unheard of.
100%, especially at a school like Maryville.
Especially at a powerhouse like Maryville. Actually, they do the way they kind of break it up at Maryville. Their ninth grader, their freshmen are actually at the lower school, and then they have the upper school. So he was on a completely different campus pretty much, playing on varsity Friday nights. He's playing with men. He's playing with 18-year-old men, and he earned the starting job as a freshman, coming out in his first full starting year as a sophomore. Jett, tonight he goes, listen to this, 12 for 14. Efficiency, right? He throws for 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ooh. I mean, if that's not the stat line right there, I don't know what that is.
I'd like to know that QBR.
QBR, yeah. Someone calculate those QBR. The analytics guys out there calculate the QBR. But Jett, get on this dual threat action. He actually had 8 carries for 63 yards on the ground, right? And they take on and they beat Bradley Central 38-0. Shout out to our boy Willie Jones. Will Jones is that quarterback's name. Shout out him being a sophomore, handling his business like a grown man. So that concludes the Next Town Over, okay? So that concludes our show. Jett, any final comments before I do the outro here?
Shout out to the boys, man. They fought hard tonight, played with passion. It's something that we're starting to normalize with this team. I'm proud to watch them play, man.
I can't wait to watch them play next week. We're going to have our walkthrough. Look out for our walkthrough episode in the middle of the week.
The walkthrough is going to be good this week.
The walkthrough going to be good. Dive into Indy, starting that conference game. We're used to Indy. Here we go. How you doing? Keep it moving. And then we'll be here next Saturday to break down the game, just like this Saturday. It will be posted up by the time you have your first cup of coffee Saturday morning. We really look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for tuning in, and here we go for another episode that concludes another episode of Friday Night Lights on Air, presented by students of the game. And if you need insurance, call 615-878-5551. That's Hub International, our sponsor.
Okay. Did you just shout out yourself?
I just shouted out myself. That's actually my cell phone number. I plug. Everybody, so we did a plug. My boss is going to like it, so shout out there. But Jett, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.